Hi, I'm Carrie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Book of Hope, a survival guide for an endangered planet by Jane Goodall and Douglas Abrams. Now, this was a timely read. I think we all need a little bit of positivity in our lives at the moment. There's a lot of negative things going on. Russia declared war against Ukraine. So I was really hoping that this book would give us some hope that we are going to be okay. And I think it did. So for me, the key takeaway from this book was, in respect of the terrible world we currently live in, we as individuals need to realize that our actions, however small and insignificant they may seem, can and actually will make a difference to save and improve our world for future generations. Thank you. I think a lot of people, myself included, think, I can make this little change to my lifestyle, but it's just a drop in the ocean. It's not going to really make an impact when it comes down to it, which is a negative way to look at it. But I think I've been convinced. Thank you, Jane. I'm convinced that there are a number of reasons to still have hope for the world and our environment, so stick around to find out why. So the first reason why you should read this book is because Emma Watson recommended it on her Instagram. Case closed. Say no more. I'm sold. Reason number 2. We love Jane Goodall. Why? She's an extremely inspiring woman. She is a naturalist, and in 1957 she travelled halfway around the world to go and live in the jungle and research and study chimpanzees. You may have heard about her research. So anyway, it's 1957 and all the odds are against a young woman travelling to go and do something like this. She overcame a lot of prejudices to be able to succeed, and she ended up making groundbreaking discoveries that literally changed how we define mankind. Yes! So she observed a rather distinguished chimp using a twig to fish for termites in a termite mound. Until that point, it was thought that only humans were capable of making tools, and that was one way that we separated humans from animals. However, due to Jane's discovery, this had to be completely redefined. And this early work was what led her into a life of fighting for the rights of animals, people, the environment, and becoming the global pillar for conservation and environmentalism that she is today. She has enabled so many individuals and communities to take action and make positive changes that have had a huge impact not only on the environment, but on those people's well-beings, and it has given them purpose and all sorts. Jane now describes herself as a messenger for hope, and she says that hope has been a central part of her work right from those early stages when she was researching in the jungle. So, now that we've established that Jane Goodall is a boss who is to be trusted, what is this hope she speaks of? She says that hope is what enables us to go on in the face of adversity. She calls it the crucial survival trait that has allowed our species to survive right from the Stone Ages. It's a way of engaging with our problems rather than avoiding them. However, there are still many skeptics of this hope idea, simply due to the state of the world and the environment and the idea that the situation we're in has gone too far and is beyond repair. So this book has the rather difficult mission of convincing us that there is still hope, which is a hard job, especially when all we hear is negative, negative, negative on the news and in the media all around us. But anyway, the book is written in a rather conversational style where Douglas Abrams is questioning Jane Goodall and prompting her to explain and defend this theory that she has around hope. In my opinion, Jane Goodall does a pretty good job of not sugarcoating our situation. She says it how it is and acknowledges that we are in a pretty dire situation when it comes to the environment, and also that not enough people recognise the magnitude of the problem. And she hits us with the following somewhat daunting action points that she says are required to turn our situation around. 1. Alleviate poverty. She says that if you're living in poverty, you will cut down the last tree to grow food, you'll fish the last fish to feed your family, and if you live in an urban area, you'll buy the cheapest food because you can't afford to buy sustainably produced products. Makes sense. 2. Reduce unsustainable lifestyles. A lot of us have too much stuff. 3. Eliminate corruption. We cannot succeed without good governance. 4. Face up to the problems caused by growing population and livestock, because carrying on business as usual spells the end of life as we know it. Thank you, Jane. However, she uses storytelling to remind us that there are so many good restorative things happening in the world that are positively impacting the environment. And she does this while setting out the 4 reasons why we should still have hope. Reason number 1, the amazing human intellect. This is the part of the brain that reasons and solves problems. Our intellect and curiosity has led to so many amazing discoveries in different fields because we are always looking to extend our understanding and push the boundaries of our knowledge. And Jane says that the key difference between us and animals is language and our ability to pass on wisdom and discuss issues. Doug Abrams argues, well, isn't it our intellect that's got us into this mess in the first place? Maybe human intellect was a mistake in evolution. However, Jane says that no, it's actually the way we've used our intellect that has caused the problem. Greed, hate, fear, desire for power, etc. However, we have also used this human intellect for so much good. Restorative farming, renewable energy, moving towards plant-based diets, etc. And Jane also makes the point that despite all of the violence in society today, through school shootings, gang warfare, domestic violence, racism, sexism, there's still this general understanding that those things are wrong, and thanks to the media, people actually understand what's going on. She says there are a far greater percentage of people who are basically decent in kind. So, reason number 2 is the resilience of nature. And I thought there were some super interesting examples in this section of the book of how resilient nature is. There's literally a famous tree that survived the atomic bomb in Japan, and it's still alive today. And there are multiple trees that survived multiple ice ages, showing that nature adapts to the natural cycles that take place on Earth. Additionally, skinks grow new tails, octopi grow new arms, and so do starfish. And have you ever tried to drown a cockroach? That's not in the book, and I hope you haven't. That's just an example I'm giving. They're resilient. Jane makes the point that nature does not need us to survive, but we need it. We depend on nature for literally everything: food, air, water, clothing, and every extinct species creates a hole which weakens the entire ecosystem, which Jane says is now close to collapse. Unfortunately, because of us, many species have had to either adapt or perish, and the rate of extinction is higher than ever. I really want to share this example with you from the book because it shows how one lost species can have such a pinballing negative effect on the whole ecosystem. So there was a time where in the Yellowstone National Park the grey wolf was wiped out. This led to a higher population of elk because the wolves had been controlling the elk population and keeping it at a sustainable number. This meant that the elk were overgrazing the park, which meant that mice and rabbits didn't have any underbrush to hide under, and their numbers plummeted. Bees had fewer flowers to pollinate, and grizzly bears didn't have enough berries to collect for hibernation. The wolves had also been keeping the elk away from the riverbank because this was an area where they were exposed to danger. So this meant that the elk were spending more time on the edge of the river, and the hooves of the large herds were kicking up the mud, making the river dirty. This killed the fish and made the drinking water around the park dirty. Beavers also couldn't build dams because of the elk's overgrazing, meaning that there weren't enough trees. So literally the loss of one species kind of effed with everything around it. However, the grey wolves were successfully reintroduced to the park and balance was restored. Yay! And the book talks about a number of successful rewilding projects that have happened around the globe. And the positive change is being facilitated by a lot of just everyday people. It's not all large NGOs. For example, a number of farmers are turning their land back into nature. There are also projects in big cities like Singapore where they link habitats with green corridors of trees so that animals can move safely through and find mates and food. So yeah, nature is resilient to a point. And there are a lot of positive changes that are happening out there. We just don't tend to hear about them so often because the news is so focused on the negative. Reason number 3, the power of young people. Now this isn't putting the burden on children to save the world, but I think it's more highlighting the fact that the younger generation has a different kind of energy. Maybe because their future's been compromised and they're dissatisfied with the state of the world. Obviously we have the iconic Greta Thunberg making waves, youth-led climate protests, but there's also global movements such as Roots and Shoots, where hundreds of thousands of people from kindergarten age right through to university are transforming communities. And this actually includes underprivileged children in poverty. They're getting involved too. Jane says that once children understand the problems and we empower them to take action, they almost always do. We also have young voters coming through who are voting in the right leaders. It was the young voters that voted Trump out, and when Biden was voted in, one of the first things he did was to rejoin the Paris Agreement and recommit to creating a healthier economy and planet. And the final and 4th reason is the indomitable human spirit. Jane describes spirit as the energy force that keeps us going even when things seem hopeless. This can involve overcoming the odds with grit and determination and even risking your life to do so. We've seen so many examples of this human spirit in the past, from resistance fighters in the war who were captured and tortured and still refused to give up names, firefighters running into the World Trade Center on 9/11, journalists risking their lives to talk about corruption and brutality, people who have been told they'll never walk again, walking. And there have been a number of pioneers throughout history who embody this human spirit, like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, and so many others. Of course, the flip side is that the same kind of spirit can be shown by people who have been brainwashed, such as terrorist attackers. But anyway, it's not just that kind of high-level stuff either, it's everyday stuff. You know, people go through crap all the time, losing loved ones, losing your job, breakups. But for the most part, we don't just give up. We keep going, and having support networks is really important for this. Anyway, Jane believes that we have a window of time where our actions can heal the harm that we've inflicted. She says we need to confront our feelings of hopelessness and get from the point of we can to we will. So there's a lot of hard-hitting stuff in there. I'm really glad that she didn't sugarcoat things. She really said it how it is. And honestly, the book is filled with story after story after story, spreading positivity and hope. And it's just the things that we don't really tend to hear about in the news. We get very caught up on the negative, but there are so many good things happening, which made me hopeful. Congratulations, Jane, you've succeeded. And I would say I'm a pessimist. Well, I don't know, am I? Anyway, I'm convinced that change is possible now. So yeah, if any of you have read this, I would be really interested to hear your thoughts. I thought it was pretty awesome, and I think I might try reading more non-fiction kind of books like this, because I did get a lot out of this. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye! Like and subscribe if you want.